Howdy, everybody. Welcome to the Jonathan and... Okay, yeah, big blank, big empty space. That's because Gwen isn't here today. I'm very sad to say, I believe she smelled my breath all the way up in Canada. At any rate, she has other things to do today. So it's going to be just me. And howdy, Penelope. Howdy, Lynn. Wow, those numbers jumped up fast. And I want to get into it pretty fast, so we'll let some more people make appearances. And that, oh my goodness, Grace! How is Grace doing today? I haven't seen Grace in like, I don't know, since like the last century or something. It has been a while. At any rate, where are you people? Huh? All right, I'm not going to be in chat much, so I'm kind of paying attention to chat right now. And let me pray us into what we're doing real quick. Thank you, Abba, for this opportunity to study your written word and to drop the teachings that we've gotten in the past from wolves in the pulpit. And we just want to take a look at exactly what you're saying here and see if we can learn and perhaps grasp what it is that you want us to know from this. And thank you for everybody that's here today too. In Yeshua's name, amen. Okay. Hi, Jimmy's daughter. No, it's kind of obnoxious right after praying. But hey, she deserves it. And Jimmy too. All right. So if you didn't read the description to today's video, okay, this is what we're doing. We're going to be erasing everything off the chalkboard from mainstream views on this subject and taking a, quote, ground zero look at the beasts in Revelation chapter 13. Today we are going to look at the physical attributes given to us through John in Revelation. What are these and what are we supposed to see? Disclaimer. I am not your teacher, rabbi, nor pastor. Be a good Berean and search scripture and the information discussed and come to your own conclusions. Because if this is totally wrong and you say, but Jonathan said, in front of the judgment seat, I want to say, I told them to look it up and research it themselves. Neener, neener, neener. Okay, anyways. Hi, Marla. All right, so looking at what it is, okay, the beast is described to us in Revelation 17. In verse 7, right, the angel talking to John says, and the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not, and yet is. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 beings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come, and when he cometh, he must continue a short space. Okay, where did I freeze? Okay, I saw me freeze somewhere in there. I'll go back to verse 10. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. Awesome. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and of the 7, and goeth, and is of the 7th, and goeth into perdition. Okay. Now think about this. Where is there a place where 7 kings rule at the same time? Okay, 7 different locations, 7 different kingdoms, if you will. All right, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. Okay, now think about this. What are we told? We are told to be of one mind. Okay? This should show us that it gives us power. It creates a power when we're all on the same page. Okay, and it talks in 14, these shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is the Lord of lords and the King of kings. And they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. Okay, now this is where I'm going to backtrack a bit, and we'll go back to Revelation chapter 12. Okay, starting in verse 15 here and 17. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. Okay? So the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. All right, now I want to go back in time. Revelation. Excuse me. I just breathed a gnat. Chapter 12. Okay, this is after the dragon is cast down to earth. Nutrition. All right, maybe that'll get rid of it. Anyways. Now let's start in verse 13 of chapter 12. And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. Okay, and I don't think anybody disputes that the man-child is Yeshua, Jesus, or that the woman is Israel. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast it. I have to cough again. And then he died while he was alive from breathing in a gnat right there. Okay, anyways. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman. And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God, and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Okay, so twofold thing marking the believers there. Okay, commandments of God and the testimony of Jesus Christ. I hate gnats. Anyways, now this has been discussed in our local study group quite a bit. And when we talk about the flood out of the mouth of the serpent, everybody always says it's a flood of lies, which in the Old Testament prophets, it does talk about a flood of lies. But this is just for your consideration, and I'm not saying I'm correct. But going on the premise that most of the 10 northern tribes of Israel were scattered all over the earth, and a large part of them went into Europe and ultimately North America. We were looking at this, at the flood possibly being this flood of illegal immigrants, okay, undocumented migrants, whatever you want to call them. And we can see that this is being done intentionally. People are financing this to get this done, to get these people into Europe and into the Americas, well, North America specifically. So just consider that out. And I'm keeping out a watch for. I'm not saying that this is fact or it will be happening, but I'm keeping an eye open because of verse 16. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon cast out of its mouth. So if we see an earthquake, very much like where the earth opened up, it doesn't even have to be an earthquake. It just says the earth opened up and swallowed the flood. But very much like at Mount Sinai, that opened up and swallowed Korah and his bunch of people, then we will be much closer to what I believe it is. Okay, so after this happens, after we see that, Revelation 13 starts. Okay? Everybody take a water break. I'll be right back. Death to gnats, man. Okay, anyways. Now, in Revelation 13, it says, starting in verse 1, and I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Now, is this the same beast with 7 heads that's in Revelation 17? Because this one comes up out of the sea. And it says the other one comes up out of the bottomless pit. Now, I don't know if it's 2 different beasts or not, but I find that interesting. Is the bottomless pit in the ocean? Because we're told also that someone else will come up out of the bottomless pit later. Okay, so blasphemy, verse 2. And this is where I really want to go today. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Okay. How are we doing on that so far? 7 heads and 10 horns. Everybody with me? Good. Excuse me. I see that, Jimmy. Preach it, Brother Plain. Apparently he has a problem with gnats too. Okay. So what is this? Multiple heads. Well, that is a condition which science has called polycephaly. Okay, and when you look at this, another cough coming up. When you look at polycephaly, you get all kinds of information on the internet, all sorts of stuff from video games and mythology and all sorts of garbage. So this very brief touching upon multiple-headed beasts. And I want to point out, too, that typically in the natural world, a multi-headed beast has 2 or 3 heads. So 7 is unheard of in recorded history of man. On the yes, I hate it, Wikipedia page for polycephaly, in the section titled Occurrence in Animals, there's a subsection under that, Anatomy and Fitness. Okay. Now, in cases where multiple heads are fully developed and non-parasitic, they share control of the organs and limbs, though the specific structure of the connections varies. Animals often move in a disoriented and dizzy fashion, with the brains arguing with each other. And some animals simply zigzag without getting anywhere. Snakeheads may attack and even attempt to swallow each other. Thus, polycephalic animals survive poorly in the wild compared to normal monocephalic, right? So multiple-headed animals survive poorly in the wild compared to normal one-headed animals. Most 2-headed snakes only live for a few months, though some have been reported to live a full life and even reproduced with the offspring born normal. A 2-headed black rat snake with separate throats and stomachs survived for 20 years. A 2-headed albino rat snake named Wee survived in captivity for 8 years. There's some speculation that the inbreeding of snakes in captivity increases the chance of a 2-headed bird. I wanted to go up to the top of the article. Let's see here. I could have sworn it said on there somewhere. Maybe it was occurrence in animals. Okay, here we go. Occurrence in animals. Polycephalic animals often make local news headlines when found. The most commonly observed 2-headed animals are turtles and snakes. Other species with known 2-headed occurrences include cattle, sheep, pigs, cats, dogs, and fish. Okay, so that's about as far as I want to go on that. But the trait of a polycephalic animal, an animal with more than one head, is it doesn't get anywhere because everybody wants to control, right? Everybody wants to be in control. Howdy Dee. Howdy Dee. Oh man, I'm sad Gwen's not here because I have to entertain myself with juvenile humor. All right, anyways. And that, yes, Mindy, poly means many. Cephal is head, that's right. All right, so what is the first animal? It was like unto a leopard. Leopard. So what I'm using for the animal reference is a website called A-Z- Okay, I'll post a link for that in the chat with each one. My computer's done with the spinning pinwheel of death. Okay. Well, Penelope, we're not to the one mind yet, right? Remember that the horns, right? The kings are of one mind, but not the heads. All right, so here we go. Leopards. Let's look at the anatomy and appearance here. The leopard has a long, slender body that is supported by short, stocky legs and a long tail that is used to aid balance whilst in the trees. The leopards can vary greatly in their coloration and markings depending on their surrounding habitat, with those found on open grasslands having a light yellow background coat, where those that are found in forests tend to be darker in color and with more markings. The dark ring-like patterns that cover the leopard's coat are called rosettes, but these turn to solid spots on the face and limbs and rings on the tail, and provide the leopard camouflage into the surrounding environment. Very interesting. So what does that mean? A leopard, is it the biggest cat? No, not at all. It's not the biggest cat. It's not the strongest cat, although it is the strongest cat pound for pound of the big cats. But camouflage into the surrounding environment. Now, let me ask you this. Where does everybody says that this beast, okay, this political beast is going to be, this kingdom is going to be the United Nations? That's in plain sight. It's not hidden. Everybody can see the United Nations, and there's 1.45 billion Christian denominations who basically believe that the United Nations is this Antichrist beast system. Okay, so we know that it's camouflaged. It's hard to see. All right. The leopard, going down to behavior and lifestyle, is a solitary and nocturnal hunter that hunts both on the ground and in the trees. Okay, excellent climbers. Vast majority of daytime hours sleeping, etc. That they are quite unique amongst large felines, as leopards rely heavily on being able to get close enough to their prey before ambushing it, rather than expelling vast amounts of energy in a high-speed chase. Interesting, huh? So it's camouflaged, you can't see it, and it likes to get close to you before it attacks. Chummy, chummy. Trust me. I'm from the government. I'm here to help. That just set off alarms all over NSA, I'm telling you. I don't think it's the UN. I could be wrong. Most definitely could be wrong. The easiest way to know what prophecy says is let it come to pass. That most definitely is. Could it be Jimmy? I doubt it. Not the kingdom, the kingdom, right? Remember, this is all moving towards one king. That's what it just said in Revelation 17. There is going to be one king, but there's still 7 heads, which are 7 mountains, 7 different kingdoms. Yes, now I would like to say David Carrico has a great study called Heraldry of the Beast, in which he takes a good look at the coat of arms of certain royal family members, and they have this same imagery on their coat of arms. here's the thing. I can look at how many times we read something. Oh, that's so cool. That is so cool. I read about cat's eyes, so I'm going to paint cat's eyes on my truck. Right? That I think that what we're seeing when people adopt these symbols, doesn't matter if it's a unicorn or a lion beast, multi-headed beast with bear claws, that people say, wow, that's really cool, and I want to be powerful like that. So they take that imagery and apply it to themselves. I don't think that necessarily marks it as the kingdom. Anyways, now this one's pretty cool. Let's go to the bear. All right. Now the animal I'm using for bear, because there's bears all over. This is what came up, and it's the brown bear. Okay, brown bear is the most widely spread across Asia, and there's the link for you in the chat. Most widely spread across Asia, where this symbology was being shown to John. Now, what I was specifically wanted to look up is the feet, right? Because what does it say? It says right there, and his feet were as the feet of a bear. Okay, the brown bear has 4 large paws, and each of the paws of the brown bear has 5 toes that result in long claws. The 2 front paws of the brown bear have toes that have longer claws than on the back paws, as the brown bear uses its front paws for digging. The 2 back paws of the brown bear are larger than the front paws, as the brown bear often stands on its hind legs to either survey, look around, okay, to survey their surroundings, or to get food out of higher places. The brown bear uses its front paws with their enormous claws to rip open logs that have bugs inside so it can eat them. The brown bear uses its specially structured paws and legs in order to help it run fast, climb trees, and swim well. So trees, very interesting. To tear trees apart for food. Oh, Jimmy, this is going to be a multiple session study. If you want to know, you have to look at all of them. So then we have what? The mouth of a lion. Is that correct? Still in verse 2. And this doesn't really go much into the mouth of the lion. Not very much at all. Let me know if I freeze again as we sit here riding the spinning pinwheel of death. Shut that off. Okay. Anyways, I can't even get back to you guys. I'm just looking at myself here. What I wanted to look at, the mouth of the lion. Okay, it's doesn't say the mouth of a lioness, right? Penelope, mouth, yes, what it says. Okay, so when a lion, the lion just, if you look at the male lion just sits around all day, right? The female lions primarily are the ones that hunt and do the kill, but then who gets to eat first? Oh, the lion, the male lion. But he sits around and roars and roars and roars and makes lots of noise. Okay? Now, I think that this is something that we see already in kind of saber rattling with politicians, whether it is, actual threatening to go to war or soft war like tariffs, things like that. Okay, now to this beast, right? It says in the remainder of verse 2, second part of verse 2, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Okay, so these are the physical attributes I wanted to look at. Well, Jimmy, you can put out your horse if you want. I'm willing to listen. Now, some of you have heard me talk about, I don't believe in the one world government. I do not. Okay, I believe that is contrary to multiple scriptures where it talks about nations, plural nations, in the end times, that will rise against nation, right? Out of the very mouth of Yeshua right there. The United Nations is a big fat deception. Okay, when you have, for those of you that have or have had cats, they're really good at distracting too, right? How they use their tail to flick and distract something that they're going to kill or planning on attacking, or not even just attacking. I mean, just whatever it is. Well, D, yes, nations can be races, nations can be peoples. Either way. Do we have race rising up against race? Not so much. We do have nation rising against nation, though. And that is one thing we're seeing pushback on right now. And it's being applauded greatly. It's being applauded greatly by the evangelical Christian community. We're seeing a worldwide push for nationalism. Right? This is my country, right? Patriots. Patriots. I am a patriot. I was born in this country, and I love my country. Do you know what patriot means? Patriot means of the fatherland, right? Or father. Does anybody remember what Jesus said about that? Right? Matthew 23:9. And call no man your father upon earth, for one is your Father which is in heaven. And that, I wasn't able to put my finger on it, but as many of you know, I was struggling greatly with what I call the altar of the false god of God and country, because it's little g God and capital C country. God and country. And that, hi Jasmine, welcome to Tucson. When you get here. Call no man father. But we're seeing this rise in patriotism, this rise in a pride in country, in, hey, I am American or I am Hungarian. And now we're seeing it even in places like France. They're fed up. They're fed up. The Italians are fed up. The Germans are fed up. That's not a good idea to anger the Germans historically. Hasn't been a good idea. At any rate, now we've got these physical attributes that are given to us. Now let's just do a little trivia, because a lot of people say, well, 7 heads, Rome sits on 7 hills, or 7 mountains. If you look up city on 7 hills, or city of 7 hills, there's like 100 of them around the world. I don't know, there's a lot of them all over the world. Well, Marla, that God and country, it is, in my opinion, with me personally, it was something that was greatly interfering with my walk with my Heavenly Father and being obedient to my Heavenly Father. We got this, it's pounded into us from birth, right? And then when we start school, where do we take our hand and put it, right? It used to be like that. People don't like to talk about that. But when the Pledge of Allegiance was written by a Christian socialist, that's odd. And they started out with the socialist salute, right? But then they said, oh, that's too much like those Nazis. So then they had them put their hand over their heart. And the Pledge of Allegiance right there, right? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the nation for which it stands, one nation. Okay, so we have flag, nation, and then God. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So it's kind of like a footnote. And that's the whole way that my walk in patriotism was, right? I twice took an oath to protect the ideals held in the Constitution, raising my right hand, so help me God. What God is that? Okay. Marla, I think that we are putting our country over God. God gave us this great nation. Right? And I mean, it's the whole thing. I mean, everything. One thing that helped me break out of this, Isaiah chapter 30. It's in the Bible somewhere. Okay? Now, wherever it says Egypt and Pharaoh, just replace Egypt with America and Constitution, with Pharaoh with Constitution. Right? Isaiah 30, verse 1. Woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord, that take counsel, but not of me. And that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit. That they may add sin to sin. That walk to go down into Egypt, America. And have not asked at my mouth to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, the Constitution, and to trust in the shadow of Egypt, America. Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh, Constitution, be your shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt, America, your confusion. Now, that may be just me. When I was in that mindset, I used to say, what do you say more? It's a free country, or there ought to be a law. Okay, well, let's leave that aside. What do you say more as a believer? Right? Do you say I'm supposed to walk this way and be obedient to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Or do you say, I have a constitutional right to talk about my biblical beliefs? Because there's a difference. That's right. What does our Father say about it? Okay. Anyways, that's the gist of it. I could go on about this for a considerable length of time. Oh, and I'm seeing support in the chat. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I love you guys. You guys are so awesome. We're of one mind, and therein lies the power, being obedient with that one mind. Okay, I'm going to continue on in Revelation 13, just because we touched on some of this other stuff. Okay, and I saw one of his heads, as it were, wounded to death. Okay, we hear that time and time again. Okay, Antichrist is going to be assassinated and then healed miraculously. I disagree. At this point in time, I disagree. And I saw, as it were, one of its heads wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. And they, who? All the world, worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? Now, does that sound like any of the kingdoms, any of the powers that are on earth right now? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth, right? This is still the seven-headed beast. A mouth of speaking great things, that roaring lion, roar, loud. Great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. Okay, so 3.5 years. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, capital G, so that's going to be Yahuwah, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. Who dwells in heaven? Well, Yeshua, Jesus, right? And that blasphemy covers all that, right? There's all the angels, the spiritual beings up there. And it was given to him, to who? To the seven-headed beast, to make war with the saints and to overcome them. Could be getting real ugly. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. Now let me ask you this. If I'm a big buff bodybuilder, right, and I break into your house and wrestle you to the ground and tie you up, do I have legal dominion over you? No. Just because I have a power over you, does that mean if I do overpower you and tie you down, does that mean that we're family now? No. Does that mean that we're all in one accord? No, not at all. Okay. So just because this beast has power over all kindreds and tongues and nations does not mean it's a one world government. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, everyone whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and faith of the saints. Now, let's back up here. Okay. Verse 4, who is able to make war with him? Verse 10, here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Okay, and that's part of this false dichotomy that we are going to be, that Christians believe, a lot of evangelical Christians believe, that they're going to physically, with their AR-15 and their shotguns and improvised explosives, going to make war with the beast. No, you're not. And if you think you are, look up YouTube, look up JDAMs. Capital J, capital D, capital A, capital M, S. Okay, JDAMs. Because what happens is, okay, yeah, you shoot a soldier, and then all the other soldiers pull back, and they call in an airstrike, and they drop a 500 or 1,000 or a 2,000-pound bomb with guiding fins on it from miles and miles and miles away, tens of miles. And you're just sitting there, and you don't hear anything. You just blow up, and you're gone. No, Penelope, I don't think China. I don't think so. But I'll get to that. Now, is China like a leopard, or can we see China? Okay, patience and faith of the saints. Okay, now that's all, everything before that deals with the first beast. Verse 11, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. Out of the where? The earth. What came first? The sea, and now the earth. An interesting point of observation that someone else has brought up. How did creation start? It started with the sea, and then it started with the earth. Okay, I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb. And he spake as a dragon, and he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. Very next line, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had to do in the sight, which he had to do, had the power to do in the sight of the beast. So I won't take it with a big fat grain of salt when people tell you that they're seeing fire come down from the sky. Okay? Alonzo, my brother, man, I'm glad to see you. Dude, I haven't seen you in so long. I hope you were well. Big grain of salt. Okay, means beast, part 2 of verse 14, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. Did it say die right there? Had the wound by the sword and did live. It did not, and that's a contention that I have here, because up in verse 3, one head, right? Multiple heads. One head was wounded as it were wounded to death, right? So it was a deadly wound, but the deadly wound was healed. It didn't die. It did not die. But what's everybody say? We're waiting for the death of this or the death of that, right? This country has to die. This politician has to die. right? And since I've been a kid, every single president has been the Antichrist. Well, Ronald Reagan's the Antichrist because he's Ronald Wilson Reagan. Each one of those has 6 letters, 666, so he's the Antichrist. And then they applied it to George Herbert Walker Bush, which I'm not sure how they got the 666 out of that. And then, of course, William Jefferson Clinton. And then, of course, who's the next one? George Herbert Bush, George Harold Bush, whatever his middle name is. Oh, W. George W. Bush. How do you spell W? W. Anyways, and then, of course, Barack Hussein Obama. And now we're on to Donald John Trump. Oh, blah, blah. Yeah, a lot of it is. And the thing is, it's nonstop. Yep. And that, what was this? Pretty Alonzo. I'm just trying to catch up. I know I'm missing chat. Anyways, that's pretty much where I want to start. And I want you to consider these things. Rin tin tin. Oops, I can't spell Rin. And it's right in front of me. How bad is that? Consider these attributes that we discussed today. Now, I have it in my head, and we'll talk about this. We'll probably talk about this Sunday, since Bowman hasn't contacted me yet to do his testimony. Front Street. Anyways, consider these attributes, okay? Hidden, could be hidden in plain sight, ready to attack at any minute, okay? Big bear claws it uses to get to tear trees apart and get to food to eat, and mouth as a lion, just roaring, making a lot of noise while everybody else does the work. A lot of noise while everyone else does the work. Now, again, my horse in the race, Jimmy, is that the kingdom has to be in place in order for a king to take power. And I firmly believe that this first beast is a political entity that does not rule the whole world, but the whole world pays it tribute. And we'll get into that in our next session. Look at that. So, everybody in Arizona, tell me. Yes, D, he thinks that Antichrist, the person, is coming out. And that's another thing, too, because there's a spirit of Antichrist, and then there's an embodiment. Very much as there is a Messiah, and then he has the spirit of his father, and that same spirit is given to all those that are sealed with that spirit. False Jerusalem. That we got a false Jerusalem. It's over there in United Nations Israel. Yes, that's the historical Jerusalem, but it's going to be squashed upon by New Jerusalem whenever that comes down. Whatever that timeline will be. So think about these things. Now, I can't say for certain. I can't say for certain if what I was discussing about the flood out of the dragon's mouth is going to be people trying to overpower the believers, those that have the testimony of Jesus and the commandments of God. And that, all of you good Bible scholars out there, where is it talked about a flood of lies? Somewhere in the Old Testament. Overwhelming thing of lies. Well, I think we're going to see this Antichrist and Antichrist spirit doing a lot of things that aren't Christ. You know, anti. What is anti? Anti? No, anti. What does that mean, Mindy? It's a prefix for, from the Greek. Oh, what am I doing? Wrong one. No wonder the dictionary isn't coming up. Yes, 12:15. No. No, D. It's in the Old Testament. The Revelation 12:15, I think, is a flood of people. And anti in Greek. Oops, I have to spell it correct though. That's right, I spelled anti wrong. A prefix meaning opposed to or against, preventing or suppressing, reversing or undoing, the opposite of. It's also a word on its own, meaning opposed to, against, opposed. And its most literal definition, I believe, anti means instead of, right? Instead of Christ. Instead of Yeshua. In place of. Yeah, it's a replacement. Ew. Lynn's posting icky stuff. Anyways, look at that. We burned through an hour. Awesome fast. Tune in next time. That was just for you, Jimmy. Next time, we're going to continue this. So think about these attributes of the leopard, of a multi-headed thing, how it's confused and which one's in charge. I don't know. And the bear's feet and the roaring lion mouth. At any rate, I'm going to pray us out. Heavenly Father, Abba, thank you very much for this time together and this time to study together. And we're just grateful for what you give us. For those that need help with housing, show them the way. For those that need warmth, give it to them. For those that need food, give it to them. And bless all them listening here today. And we love you. Thanks for everything you do, whether we know it or not. In Jesus, Yeshua's name, amen. And that is that. I hope and pray that Gwen will be with us next time. She's not here right now, as you well know. So everybody, if you would, type a hi, Gwen, in the chat for me so she knows how much she's loved and missed. And that time with me is so much better. And you guys. Grace, I love that. I'm so glad you made it today. Crossoverians. That sounds awful lot like ovary, though. Anyways, love you all. Have a beautiful day. I see you first day. Adios.